On the final episode of Scholars of Bahrain, we are joined by Mahmoud Abdel Ghaffar, an associate researcher at Dirasat with an interest in international and regional relations, who is here to talk to us about his academic journey to inspire us all.
My name is Mahmoud Abdel Ghaffar. I am a research associate here at the Bahrain Center for Strategic International Energy Studies. I have been working here for 9 years approximately. I am currently working in the Strategic and International Relations Department here at the center. In terms of my academic background, I have a BA in International Studies from the American University in Washington, D.C. I graduated in 2004. I then proceeded to acquire my Master's in Business Administration in the American University of Sharjah in the UAE, where I specialized and diversified my studies into the business realm. So I have a combination of international relations and business studies combined into one. As a researcher within the International Strategic Studies Department here at Dirasat, my main area of focus is regional security and regional developments. In addition, I am also now beginning to specialize in Arabian Gulf and Chinese relations. This is becoming a more substantiated role that I am very much invested in, and I look to specialize within this field to help bring new ways of thinking when it comes to Arabian Gulf relations along with China. When it comes to the humanities or social sciences of any kind, we rely mainly on literature. In other words, books, articles, analyses, journal articles that can help us get a better understanding of a certain topic. When you're dealing with international relations, this is a field that is very complicated in its very essence, because it's dealing with countries, it's dealing with individuals at different levels. It could be at the international level, the local level, or the regional level. And sometimes we have to depend on getting certain opinions of different topics. So if this is the case, we will often conduct surveys and survey a certain population to get a better understanding of how different issues impact different people. So the main sources that we use, of course, like we said, is the literature, and much more now it's becoming more digital literature. So it's becoming e-sources such as JSTOR, LexisNexis, and these different electronic sources that are widely available. And this helps actually democratize the information that is available to different people. So a researcher in Manama, he can access the same sort of information as someone in Cape Town in South Africa. And this democratization of information has really disrupted the field of research, because it's becoming much more widely available for researchers and therefore creating a much even playground for different researchers within the field. When I am looking for any topic, I always start at the very basic level. What is the topic at hand? What's driving me to better understand this topic? And for any researcher, it's always the curiosity. The curiosity, this will help motivate the researcher to better understand the topic. So for instance, when I was first studying Arabian Gulf and China relations, I had to understand the history of it. And because without the history, we don't get a better understanding of the current relations of these two parts of the world. And with that said, I had to go back to looking at ancient historical references, such as the silk trade between this region and China. I had to understand the different cultures of each region. And with this said, this helped me create a foundation for the basic understanding of what it means for Arabian Gulf and China relations. And this also helped establish a of a foundation of understanding between the two cultures. And then from then I can progress to a more modern approach of the relations between the two cultures. So for instance, Arabian Gulf, China relations in the 20th century and how these have developed to create the contemporary relations between the two countries in the 21st century. Naturally, any field of work has obstacles. Sometimes they can be within the context of itself, or sometimes they can be personal. For me, it's always creating or addressing perhaps sensitive issues that might arise when studying a certain topic. So, for instance, there might be cultural sensitivities that I must be aware of, and if this is the case, I have to address them in a very objective manner while remaining sensitive to those sensitivities as well. In addition to that, it's always difficult to shrink very complicated and complex international relations issues to a very simple form, because any researcher, his art is in his pen or her pen. So how they are able to take very complicated topics and to reduce them into a very consumable way is always a challenge. But this is the art of the craft. And over time, any researcher will develop skills necessary to address very complicated situations and readdress them in a very simple and easy to understand manner. We see many research papers that rely on surveys and opinion polls, and these are very critical to the context of the study itself. But it's always imperative that there will be degrees of objectivity and error from the survey itself. For instance, if you want to know exactly how the Arabian Gulf region is the most critical issue that's impacting the Arabian Gulf region, you might get a very wide variety of responses from your survey. So the objective of any survey is to narrow down very specific issues and crises that impacts the population that are being surveyed. For instance, you will not ask a Bahraini, how do you feel, how does snow affect your life? Because, you know, as this region is very hot, so we don't get much snow. So this question might not be relevant to this region, but it might be more relevant to the Scandinavian region or any other European region that faces lots of snow. So these questions, they had to be custom tailored towards the respondents themselves. And this is always a challenge of any researcher when they're conducting field research of this kind. Currently, like I said before, I'm specializing in regional studies of the Arabian Gulf and the Greater Middle East and Arabian Gulf and China relations. I think because Arabian Gulf and China relations are relatively new, it's going to be we will be pioneers within this field. So naturally, any contribution we make to this field, it will be a contribution that will be recorded and it will be remembered by future generations. So if you are interested at all between these two regions, between the Arabian Gulf and China or East Asia, it's a very good opportunity, because this way you can have your impact in the field directly, and future generations will probably refer to you as a source. So it's a very meaningful work. When it comes to the region, the Middle East region, it's a region that is misunderstood across the world. And a job of academics and researchers is to better understand and make sense of the events that are occurring within our region. And because of the complexity, it's sometimes very difficult for people to express themselves when they are writing their work. So it's always imperative that we look at this region objectively, look at the different opinions that are being described here, and what are the challenges that different parts of this region face. And for this reason, it's always very critical to portray or display any objective or any information in a very objective manner. This can be a challenge for some people, I understand this, but given this region's importance to the rest of the world, this is why there's a lot of attention to the Arabian Gulf to the Middle East at the bigger scheme of international relations. My message to our viewers here is, if you have this curiosity naturally of how things work, of how people interact, or why certain topics are piquing your interest, I always say pursue them, because whenever you have this curiosity, this will drive you to achieve whatever your goal is. And humankind is very curious in a very natural way. So this curiosity will always drive you and motivate you to meet your objective.